Hi there. Today I am making some foundations for foundation paper piecing. Years ago I took a class with Judy Matheson and learned to do foundation paper piecing using freezer paper. I use this method so much. For one of the times that I use it is to make these big leaves on the Ferris wheel flowers quilts. So I thought I would show you how I get the foundations ready and how I do the freezer paper foundation paper piecing. In order to do, it's very easy, but you have to start out with your pattern and make freezer paper foundations. And I cut freezer paper that's bigger than the pattern in my pattern. Here's a section of the pattern in my pattern. So I make sure I cut a freezer paper foundation or freezer paper rectangles that are going to cover this guy. Okay, and then stack the freezer paper pieces all in the same direction so that the shiny side is up. And then I cut out one of the, or make a copy, cut out one of the patterns from my pattern and lay it so that it's all covered. The ones I have under my machine here were cut a little smaller. These are bigger. And then you can take a hot iron and touch it to the pattern, 3 or 4 times in the middle. But since I didn't want to get my iron going, you can also take a stapler and just staple about 2 or 3 times. The main thing is you just want this to be held well. My stapler's not cooperating very much today. You want it to be held onto the shiny side of this stack of freezer papers. Now, after you have that ready, you go to your sewing machine. And in your sewing machine, you need to do a couple things to get ready. First of all, take your thread off of the machine, and then take your bobbin thread out. On my Bernina, I have to turn the controls that says don't look at the thread and don't look at the bobbin, because I'm going to be sewing with just a needle on paper to make this pattern. And then I have my pattern under the sewing machine, and I am going to show you how I sew that. I have already started on another example. It's the same thing. I have stapled it down and I have stitched right around the outside. This is the outside 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then here is, I stitched around this on all sides, and now I'm stitching the lines in the middle. And I just used a regular 2.5 stitch length. It really doesn't matter. I used an old needle, and all I'm doing is stitching right down on these lines. And I'm going to stitch on every line in this leaf. Try to stay on the line because you are making a pattern for yourself. And if you get off the line, it doesn't hurt you. Just put your needle up and come back to the edge. And when I finish, I will have these paper foundations all poked with where the lines will be for me to sew later on. So let me finish the rest here. I will take this staples out and show you our foundations. Now I've taken this out of the sewing machine and I've sewed all of the lines that were on the pattern. Before I take the staples out, I usually take a pair of paper scissors. Now I have either 6 or 8 of these stapled together, so you definitely don't want to use your good fabric scissors. But I like to cut them kind of close. Do not cut them on the seam line, on the outside seam line, but just cut them close. Then take your staples out. And you have however many stacks. I think I may have 6 or 8 here. So the only other thing that I have to do now is put the numbers on, because the numbers are going to tell you what order you're going to piece things in. So this was like this on here. I am going to flip these over and I am going to see what number is there. Number 1. So I just go through 1, 2, 3, 4, because I know that's what they are here. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then I'll do the next one. Now, if you're just making 1 or 2 leaves, then you probably don't need 6 to 20 paper foundations, because you can use these 6 or 8 times. But I'm making them for a class too, and I use this leaf thing a lot on my flower hugs and on the Ferris wheel flowers in lots of different ways. So I like to have plenty of them around when they get old and I have to pitch 1 or 2. So this is how we make the freezer paper foundations. Next we'll talk about how we get the fabric ready. And finally we'll learn how to do this freezer paper foundation piecing.